Hello there. Thank you so much for joining us. This is News Channel Nebraska. My name's Eric McKay. Let's take a look at our top headlines today. Beginning in national news, where officials say high school athletes face charges for an alleged hazing incident. They've been released from jail. They're awaiting legal proceedings after surrendering to a sheriff's office in New York. And as Amy Kiley reports, they're accused of victimizing 5 younger students.
There's no hazing excuse or defense in the law.
11 high school lacrosse players face the charge of unlawful imprisonment for an alleged hazing incident in Syracuse, New York. The Onondaga County DA's office says they've all surrendered. It says family court will handle the juveniles and anyone older will be arraigned.
If you get prosecuted as a juvenile, youthful offender, the punishments are way, way lighter, and it's much less likely that that case will follow you through the rest of your life.
The DA alleges the West Hill High School students got 5 younger lacrosse players into a wooded area.
People came out of the woods all dressed in black. They were armed with what appeared to be at least one handgun and at least one knife.
He says 4 students escaped, but 1 did not.
The individual had a pillowcase placed over his head. He was tied up and placed in the trunk of a car.
The DA says he could have charged the suspects with kidnapping. He says he opted for a misdemeanor that's less serious because they turned themselves in. Officials say most players on the lacrosse team were not involved and didn't know about the alleged plans in advance.
The school certainly could be sued by the families of the victims if they can show that there was damage sustained. Clearly there was, and if they can show that somehow there was a failure to supervise these students.
I'm Amy Kiley reporting.
Closer to home, overwhelming support from state lawmakers to phase out some tax credits and exemptions for businesses and communities. 40 senators voted to pass the Community Development Assistance Act, removing some tax loopholes. As amended, Senator Brad Von Gillard's bill would increase revenue by an estimated $70 million over the next 2 years. It was passed with an emergency clause. That means it goes into effect as soon as Governor Jim Pillen signs it. That's expected. The bill was introduced on his behalf. Staying with the unicameral, state contributions to school and state patrol retirement funds will be seeing a gradual reduction. LB 645 has moved on to the governor's desk by a vote of 45-2. Beginning this July, the amount of money donated fluctuates year to year. The more money is in the fund, the less money is donated by the state. Fractionally, if the pot's full, the state doesn't have to add any more cash. The same goes for employees, part of the system. As the fund fills up, there would be smaller amounts required from their compensation. Before this, the state contributed 2% of compensation for everyone in the retirement system annually. Gage County heading toward what could be a big year for property valuation protests, and they're upgrading their technology to make the assessment process, if not easier, at least more consistent. Doug Kennedy has more.
County officials are working with the Multi-County Information and Programming Service called MIPS, the technology division of the Nebraska Association of County Officials, as it appraises property in small towns. MIPS Deputy Director Derek Niederklein said the company has reviewed small towns of Gage County, about 2,000 properties in recent months.
Going to the property, knocking on the door, visiting with the homeowner if they're not home. We put a door tag that has the assessor's phone number. It also has a QR code and a website where the property owners, if they come back and see the tag, can enter information about their property. We do most of the review from the exterior of the property, unless someone invites us in to review the inspection. But generally, what we see on the outside is what exists on the inside.
Information is imported into the system, including photos, through field staff using laptops. Sales of property are used to calibrate property valuations. Niederklein said the end result is a property valuation structure.
The important part is having a consistent description of properties so that a house on this side of town and a house on this side of town, if they're built the same year and they're the same condition, they have the same amenities, are described the same, and generally, if the economics of this side of a town and that side of the town are the same, they should come up with the same value. Equalization is a a very important concept, as you know, through your roles, and by having the properties listed correctly and having them valued based on the recent sale information as the law requires. It's generally a process that is never popular, but is more equitable.
Counties by law must inspect properties no less than once every 6 years. That can account for changing market conditions and deterioration of properties. Revaluation occurs every year, and assessed values submitted by counties are reviewed by the state's property tax division within the Revenue Department. Done correctly, Niederklein said the structure should continue to work well into the future. He said one objective is to avoid making arbitrary decisions in property valuations. From Beatrice, Doug Kennedy, News Channel, Nebraska.
Meanwhile, residents in Norfolk getting a closer look at tax increment financing, an at times controversial economic development tool. TIF redirects a portion of property taxes that new developers would pay for new developments to help cover specific infrastructure costs. This week, a 12-member board comprised of residents with diverse perspectives held their first meeting, helping break down what can be expected through TIF financing and the potential benefits it could bring to the community.
This was a kickoff meeting of a process to try and educate the community, educate ourselves on the nuances, all the nuances of TIF, tax increment financing, and to try and come up with some guidelines as a community that we can use to say what is a good utilization of tax increment financing and maybe what shouldn't be approved for tax increment financing. But at this point in time, we're really trying to get a good feel for all the details behind tax increment financing and look at some projects and then try and create some guidelines, because we can't TIF everything, so we have to create some kind of guidelines for what is worthy of spending public dollars on and what is maybe not a good use of that.
There will be meetings held for the community on the fourth Wednesday of every month. A landmark in a western Nebraska town being torn down. The Lakeview Hotel on Main Street in Curtis was built in the early 1900s and abandoned in the early 2000s. City officials say they've been working on a solution for the building for a few years now, but gained ownership of the building after it could no longer be salvaged. Crews began the demolition process this week. They expect to have it completely torn down by the end of the week. No word yet on what will eventually occupy the empty lot. High school students in one region of the state getting a feel for an important industry. Jake Bartecki has more.
Students at a southeast Nebraska high school have been spending the year getting a feel for the healthcare industry.
Mostly we're just trying to get kids excited about healthcare, whether that's people who are already planning on going into healthcare or students who are still a little bit unsure.
Rachel Bisbee is the leader of the Beatrice HOSA program, Healthcare Occupation Students of America, a program to get those interested in healthcare valuable experience. And students like Brooklyn Frazier and Brooke Duff say they have.
It gives you opportunities that are better for your future, and I think they set you up in the long-term goals. And when I did a job shadow, it kind of brought me out into the outside world at the hospital, and I got to connect with people that just brought me to a better area so that I could learn more.
Sure. It's good for students to realize what they actually want to do, and so kind of connecting people in that field is good, just so they know if they actually want to do that in the future.
And for others like junior Sierra Eggleston, HOSA has opened doors to potential options for higher education.
I've definitely learned about a bunch more colleges that I've been interested in now that have really good health programs, because I think it's important to find a good college that has good programs for that.
Beatrice's HOSA program is wrapping up its first year at Chapter, but they did a lot in year one, from college visits to weekly meetings. But for Bisbee, the trip to the state leadership conference was the highlight.
It was really cool to go meet kids and sponsors from all over the state who were all there for the same reason and all wanting to learn and make connections. So yeah, that's another great part about HOSA is you get to meet people who are interested in the same things you are.
Going forward, the program would like to add guest speakers as well as group volunteering. In Beatrice, Jake Bartecki, News Channel, Nebraska.
At a central Nebraska city celebrating the efforts brave citizens made decades ago to help secure the country's freedom. Peter Rice has more.
The streets of Grand Island were filled with celebration and remembrance on Wednesday as the city came together to celebrate its Vietnam veterans. 7 National Guard soldiers marched from the Veterans Club Park to the Hall County Courthouse to remember the 7 local Hall County veterans who were killed in action during the Vietnam War. The event led up to a special ceremony at the courthouse where city leaders officially commemorated the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. Several speakers said this public celebration was especially important because these veterans faced a mostly negative reception when they first returned home all those years ago.
They were treated horribly, and a lot of the veterans were even ashamed of their service. They were treated so horribly. Our country, fortunately, has turned around and seen the errors in its ways and has decided that we always need to honor our veterans of any war and not forget that their service mattered.
And we weren't ready for the way we were going to be treated when we come home. Protesters all over America were protesting the war. I made 3 trips to Vietnam, and each time I came home, the protesters seemed to know when we were coming home.
Vietnam veteran Jim Seams spoke on his experiences during the war, including how he remained silent for decades afterwards because of the criticism. His anecdotes left many onlookers in tears, as he said nothing could prepare a person for war. The event concluded with County Board member Gary Quant descending from the cupola after spending 50 hours atop the building. His tribute is also a fundraising effort for the Hall County Warriors Memorial, which is a monument project that honors those who have served from 1975 and beyond.
The Hall County Warriors Memorial Committee is working on building a new memorial to honor the Vietnam-era veterans. It will be in the same park where we built our last memorial, which was the globe to honor the soldiers of the last 50 years. And that will be at the Hall County Veterans Park.
Through the perilous fight.
50 years after the fall of Saigon, both the ceremony and fundraising efforts are continuing Hall County's mission to ensure that the legacies of Vietnam veterans are never forgotten. From Grand Island, Peter Rice, News Channel, Nebraska.
And you can stay up to date with the very latest by following us online. Head to newschannelnebraska.com. Click on the News tab there. You can also follow us on X, like us on Facebook and Instagram as well. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day. This is News Channel Nebraska.